everybody. Thank you for joining me with the Girl View podcast on today's episode number 2, Partners in Crime. Today, we have the fabulous attorney Tanisha Davis here with us today. We're going to be talking about different laws that you might be surprised to know may be making your relationship a crime. Stay tuned. The Girl View podcast is for adults and mature people only. Please keep in mind that some language and graphics may be used that are not suitable for some audiences. Thank you so much, Attorney Davis, for being here with us today. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what it is that you do.
Absolutely. So, good afternoon. My name is Attorney Tanisha Davis. I am a solo practicing attorney in the state of Michigan. I've been practicing for about 14 years. I practice primarily family law, so I do lots of divorces, lots of custody cases, lots of parenting time, anything on children and relationships, so to
That's
speak.
right. Yes.
So I practice in all of the counties all across the state of Michigan, but primarily Wayne County, Oakland County, Macomb County.
Okay.
Uh, so always dealing with these issues regarding unmarried couples as well as married couples. So you have circumstances of divorces and marriages, but you also have situations where, you have a child's father, a child's
Yeah,
mother, and those issues come into play as well.
that's
So,
right.
family law is one of those areas that you either love it or you hate it. If you don't have family, most people they stay away from it.
Yes,
But
yes.
I kind of got into it. I enjoy dealing with the challenges of relationships and
Yes.
trying to get some resolve for people so they can move on with their lives.
Yes.
And it can be challenging. It's definitely challenging, especially with non-married couples.
Yes, I bet. I bet. And you know that since you said that, um, when I was coming up with this title, Partners in Crime, it was because I came across some laws, by the way, that really, I didn't really understand this at first, but was really getting, in my opinion, into people's business, like getting into their relationships, And for example, I had learned some information about a law. I don't know if it's a misdemeanor or a felony, but a law that was talking about cohabitation, and people can get in trouble. I don't know how it's enforced or anything like that, but I had got the definition, and I'm going to put it up so the audience can see it. And by the way, audience, again, thank you for being here. And if you want to put any comments or anything like that in the chat, we will try to answer them for you. And if we don't get to it or if they're not answered before the show ends, we'll make sure that we look over all the questions and put some feedback in that. But the definition of 750.335, the Michigan Penal Code, that's what I'm reading from. It talks about lewd and lascivious cohabitation and gross lewdness. And it says any man or woman not being married to each other who lewdly and lasciviously, and when I look at lewdly and lasciviously, I honestly don't know what they mean, but they sound so nasty. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yes.
Look at this. So lewdly and lasciviously associates and cohabitates together, any man or woman, and there's some other things about this, but it's talking about cohabitation. So, Attorney Davis, why is it such a big deal, if two adults, they agree to live together, they're in a relationship, why is the law in their business?
So the law of MCL 750335, which you just read, goes back to about the 1940s.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, prior to 1957, Michigan actually did recognize common law marriages. They
Okay.
more because in 1957, it was considered illegal to live with another person that you were not married to.
Wow.
Had to do with number one, preservation of the marriage unit and
Okay.
presenting this idea that we have these perfect family unit.
Right, right,
Or
right.
don't. But the reason why the law came into play was for two reasons: to prevent perjury and
Okay.
fraud against survivor benefits. So
Hmm.
when you think about it, around the 1940s, that's when we were in the midst of wars.
Okay.
You
Okay.
had people coming home,
Yeah.
uh, or military individuals who had died, and they had these survivor benefits, or people who worked in the plants because blue collar
Yeah.
was a big deal. Um, but they were cohabitating, and their inheritance, which you know what I'm saying, those benefits
Yeah.
were going to people outside of the marriage. So this was
Okay.
the state's way of
Okay.
control how benefits are handed down to other people who are not your spouse.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a crazy reason behind it, but ultimately I think it goes to the heart of trying to preserve the family unit.
Okay.
And that has a lot to do with why in the state of Michigan you cannot be divorced prior to 6 months if
Okay.
you have children, because there is this idea of trying to give you time to preserve this
To
marital union.
preserve the, you know what, and I'm gonna let you continue. Do you think that a lot of these laws, the foundation is based on religion or something like that? You know what I'm saying?
Conservatism.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That
Yep.
makes a lot of sense.
A lot of religions, but at the end of the day, it's really about being conservative,
Yeah.
trying to, put forth this idea that, your family unit is just perfect.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
After 1957, though, the common law marriage no longer became an issue. And even though this law has stayed on the books,
Yeah.
never been prosecuted,
Okay.
this law since the 1940s.
Okay. Now, is it a situation where it could, though, still be enforced? You know, I know, like a lot of laws like this are based on societal norms, you know, and so they can change, but it's still on the books, you know, which is concerning. You know what I'm saying?
It's
Concerning to me.
It's actually conversations about the law basically believe that it is possibly unconstitutional. Now,
Okay.
there is a law that came out. It was a big deal, a case. It was Lawrence versus Texas,
Okay.
2003.
Okay.
But that loss, and that's a Supreme Court case. That case went all the way to the Supreme Court. But what that case says is that the state or the government does not have the right to give someone's private sexual intimacy. And
Okay.
so that has MCL, this law kind of sitting on the books. But if
Yeah.
prosecuted, you have a law that's much higher that says that we don't have a right to be in your personal sexual.
Yeah.
And I don't think a judge will touch it.
Okay.
It does hinge on possibly being unconstitutional.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we don't get involved in people's, you know, how do we even prove it? We
Exactly.
um
Exactly. Unless you got some nosy neighbors, but
exactly, or like Women of Brewster Place, like
right.
I I seen you.
Right, right. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah,
So,
for the most part, no judge has ever touched this in over 60 years.
wow, okay. And that makes sense. What about you kind of talked about common law status. So, is that still a thing? And if it is, how long do you have to be in a relationship before it's recognized that you have this common law status? And what was the benefits of being recognized as having this status, as being in a common law relationship?
So, the biggest thing is, so before 1957, there was common law, but there are two exceptions in Michigan. So,
Okay.
if you were recognized as a common law marriage in the state of Michigan prior to 1957, the state can still recognize that if legal
Okay.
were on the books as having been recognized as a common law marriage. The other thing is if you came from a state that permitted common law marriages, you can also be legally be recognized here. But for the most,
Okay.
Michigan does not recognize common law marriages, and those are the only exceptions. But there isn't a whole lot of benefits to it, because
Okay.
what common law marriages are recognized for is when two people get into a relationship, there has to be some type of express or implied contract.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, that's the only way that you have a benefit in a cohabitation situation, is if
Okay.
some form of express or an implied contract. For example,
Right.
if me and Joe Blow purchase a home together
Yeah.
and we're not married,
Right.
what is our contractual promise to one another?
Mm.
There's something that says I get the house. If there's nothing,
Right.
and legally, statute of frauds require anything dealing with real property to be in writing. So
Yeah.
you can't just assume that because both of our names are on the deed. What does that mean? See, when you are married, there's a way to partition real property when there's
Yeah.
separation. But when you are not married, technically now you have to go to court, and
See.
the court determine what is considered. First, they got to determine whether or not there was some type of contract to begin with.
To
Were we
begin with.
living together?
Right.
Were what was the expectation? Did he expect to pay me if
Exactly.
we separated? Was I expected to pay him if we separated? And
Wow.
both courts have a very difficult time. Like all of the case law that's on the books,
Yeah.
really don't address this unless there is something so
Mm.
solid in writing.
Right. Right. Because a
Really
lot
are.
of people, they get in, into a relationship and it's like, oh, I love my man. He loves me.
Yep.
They go buy a house together or whatever, or they, be doing a lot of things together and don't really, I mean, of course, people don't get together to break up whether they're married or not, but things do happen. And so what you said is powerful because, it's like, how do you recover from something like that? You
It's,
know?
it's very hard because, like, even when it comes to things like bank accounts,
Yes.
and I are on the same bank account with one another. The way
Mm-hmm.
that is, it's our money.
Yeah.
So if Susie decided she wanted to take every last dime out of the
See.
joint bank account, guess what? No one can be mad at Susie.
Mm.
John decided to take all the money out of the joint bank account. He is authorized to do so. Guess what?
Mm.
No court is going to make him put it back. You're not going to be able to decide, well, I put in 30,000 and he put in 20,000, so give me my. They don't know that.
Oh my God.
So that's why it's very difficult. And I think a lot of couples get involved in these relationships.
Yeah.
Comes that's the small part to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
When things start to divide and separate, because no court is going to, get in the midst of what your intent was with
Right.
something being in writing. So
So with,
divorce
I'm
marriages.
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that's why marriages hold a much more valuable position, because you already know what the intent is. The intent
Right.
of marriage is everything is coming together in the marital unit. Everything
Mm-hmm.
belongs to me and belongs to her.
Got it.
So
Got it. When so for an unmarried couple, in your opinion, as an attorney, would you are you against unmarried couples buying property together? Are you against them having bank accounts together? And or what is the we talked about some risk, but is that something that we would recommend to people? And if so, or if not, how do we? Because some people are just not interested in being married,
right.
and so how do they get protected then? Even if it's something that you disagree with, what then do you offer them to say, hey, well, this is what you should do if and when you do these types of things as an unmarried unit?
Gotcha. So it's certainly something I would not recommend to an.
Mm-hmm.
I think that anytime you start commingling monies together,
Yeah.
they are exactly that. They're commingled.
Yeah.
Knows which portion belongs to whom, and so you are taking a risk if
Yes.
if you are going to at the end take the position that, well, this particular portion
Mm.
belongs to me. You can't divide, you can't partition land like that. And
See.
so option is the only option the court would have is sell the property. There is no I'm awarded the property, I'm gonna buy the other person out.
Wow.
That with cohabitation. If you buy a piece of property together and you are not married, you don't have the same rights as a person who is married, because that level of division is a little different. So
Yeah.
the court would more than likely order that the house be sold, the property be sold, and the proceeds divided between the two of them. So even if you put in 100,000 and he put in $1,500, guess
You better
what?
stop. Don't you say it. Don't you say that.
He's gonna get a piece of that you put in there, because there's nothing there. So what I
Right.
propose for couples is, if you are, and I get it, some people
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
or some people been married 5 times and they don't want to do it a sixth time.
Right. Right.
you know. So, and they have, and that's valid. That's
Yeah.
completely understandable. But you got to put something in writing. You have to put
Mm.
writing that is signed by both parties,
Yeah.
so that they understand what the mutual agreement
That's
is,
right.
in the event that there's a separation.
Yeah.
So control
That's deep.
contracts is probably the best, the best argument for cohabiting parties, in terms
Yeah.
of how do you protect
How do
yourself.
you protect yourself? Um,
And who does that, really? At the end of the day, who's signing a contract?
exactly. Exactly. Now, audience, we're not saying, if you've been in a relationship, go, start taking everybody's money out of the bank accounts and, putting your things up for sale. This is just real talk. You can make the decision on what you want to do for your relationship. I'm going to make sure Attorney Davis information is attached to this video. So should you want to contact her for some more personalized information, you are certainly encouraged to do so. Another law that I came across was sodomy. And so sodomy, I found the Michigan Penal Code 750.158, crime against nature or sodomy. It talks about any person who shall commit the abominable and detestable, the words, okay, crime against nature, either with mankind or with any animal. And then it starts, it says some other things. And I'm going to focus mainly on the mankind part, because we're talking about couples and relationships and different things that people might indulge in or whatever. Another interesting thing that I found before I go on to this is, I always thought that sodomy was referring to butt action. Excuse my, if anybody's offended, but hey, we should be all adults watching this podcast, right? But I always thought that it only referred to anal sex or butt action or whatever you want to call it. But I was reading something that it even used sodomy in reference to oral sex, and it was something else.
I think.
Bestiality. It was like, but I see the animal part here, but anal sex, oral sex, and bestiality. So it kind of threw my mind that it was using sodomy, and I got this off the internet. I don't know if it's correct, but it was using sodomy in reference to oral sex as well. So I just want to point out to the audience again, fact check your own stuff. But what I found, a lot of y'all looks like y'all breaking the law. So again, Attorney Davis, when looking at this law, what is it about? Because again, it's on the books. It's not, and again, I don't know the law. It's not clear to me, what it's getting at. and we're talking about a couple in the privacy of their own home, can they get in trouble, if it's found out that they're participating in sodomistic or whatever activities?
So very interesting. Yeah, right.
Right,
Uh, but again, let's think about where it all comes from.
Yeah.
It's a very old law. It comes from, the 1940s, 1950s, when
Yes.
these are things that, control of people's household was
Yeah.
not as questioned the
Okay.
way today.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, you know, we're dealing with people, the conservatives who are creating the laws, even though,
Yeah.
believe you me, I'm sure many of the people who created these laws were probably violating these laws in the
Was
first place.
probably violating these laws.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it goes,
Exactly.
again, I think the intent behind it was simply to control the way people who were not married
Okay.
interacted with each other.
Mm.
Um, because once you move from the realm of not being married, and I mean to being married,
Yeah.
those provisions of your private sexual intimacy is different.
Yeah.
So I think it just really started as a way to just control how we interacted with each other, not being married.
Not being married.
But you know, whether it was same-sex marriages or same-sex relationships or
Yeah.
sexual relationships, you can see that it attached itself to both.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really didn't matter whether or not you were in what people would have considered a volatile group of
Yeah.
same-sex relationships or otherwise. It was
Right.
really like, we're not doing that. We're not
Yeah.
doing that. And we're going to
Yeah.
make it criminal to
It
do
make
so.
it criminal.
But you cannot control it. How do I
Right. How is this enforced? I
hey,
mean,
you
do they have
know,
to have pictures of people in the act? I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, I definitely see in terms of like bestiality. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know what other people are doing, what they're willing to do, what they want to do. I think that shouldn't be done. But sodomy, especially what I read, it was relating to, anal sex and oral sex, and between consenting adults. I'm not talking about they outside, getting it on, but within the privacy of their home. Why is there a law? That's what blows my mind. So here it is, I could be in a relationship, a healthy relationship with someone, and the things that we're doing, enjoying each other is against the law.
so do you recall? I don't know if I mean, we weren't even around, but think about it like years ago, when you would go and try and get a hotel room,
Yeah.
first questions that the person at the front desk would ask is whether or not you were married. If you're
Wow.
not married, they wouldn't rent a room to you. And
Wow.
and really part of that history of the law goes to being able to discriminate against those couples who were not married. So if
Mm.
there's a law on the book that says you are not to engage in lewd and lascivious, lascivious conduct
The
with
nasty words.
nasty stuff, then I can control that if I am a landlord, if I am a homeowner,
Wow.
sell a home to you, because guess what? This law says X, Y, and
This
Z.
right.
But again, the Supreme Court came back and said, hey, we can't control people's sexual intimacy inside of,
Right.
even in public. There is a case that says even in public we can't control it. And so there is this
Right.
a law that I think, from the perspective from a legislative perspective, really is just staying on the books in case they need it for something,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know, but in a discriminatory way, because that's what
Wow.
it's being used for, being able to deny
Yeah.
people access to housing and being able to deny people access in public hotels and spaces.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Getting in business that they don't have no business being in.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, listen, if again, we talking about our partner, we're adults, and whatever boundaries we have established between each other,
Right.
um, to me, it has nothing to do with the state,
Nothing.
especially if we're in the privacy of our own home. And I know you kind of mentioned something about there's even some protection for people if certain things are done in public. But for sure, in the privacy of our home, these things blow my mind. It really does.
Yeah. So
So,
you can tell the reach that the legislature
yeah.
from years ago to be able to control your daily activities.
Oh my God.
That reach was heavy. And then, obviously it started to evolve as time went on, but we are still in a period of time where the question becomes, why is it still on the books if it has not been prosecuted in over 60 years?
Right.
It's deemed to be potentially unconstitutional. No one has challenged it, though. No legislature has came in and said, listen, we need to take this off the books because
Right.
it's unconstitutional. It's just literally sitting there as if somebody can pull it out if necessary.
If necessary. Right.
That's right. And that is risky.
Yeah, that's scary,
Yeah. Yeah.
because again, it's on the books. It's still
Right.
out there as a valid law, although, yeah, it has not been enforced. It has not been used against someone. But who's to say that tomorrow is not pulled out of a hat to say, yeah, you were participating in sodomy or whatever, as is spelled out in this law, and so you go through getting penalized and criminalized as a result of it. And then what can that person say? Oh, well, it hadn't been practiced in I don't know how many years. Well, no, but it's still on the book. So that's the type of stuff that scares me. You
That's
know,
right.
you know what I
That
mean?
it should be concerning to many people, because you don't know at what point it could be utilized. And
Right.
you know if it is brought up, you can't say it's not a valid law because it certainly hasn't been deemed to be invalid.
Exactly. Exactly. Whew. So another one, and I think out of the other two, I think this one people may know more about in terms of it being against the law, and it's still a question as to why, even though it in my opinion, I think this is the best one. But adultery, is on the books as being against the law. And so, Michigan Penal Code 750.29, adultery, the definition it gives is adultery is the sexual intercourse of two persons, either of whom is married to a third person. So, it's talking about somebody who's married, having some extramarital affair or whatever with someone else, and it is against the law. So, Attorney Davis, is this something you can go to jail for? Because I'm sure a lot of people would love to call up and, say, hey, you know what, this person is over here committing a crime, and they're like, well, what happened? They're committing adultery. Come get them. I'm sure a lot of people might want to be able to do that. So, is this something that a person can go to jail for, be fined for, or what's going on with this particular law?
Once again, it is aligned with the other two that we
Yeah,
just discussed, but at the end of the day, adultery is a felony.
yeah.
And the
Wow.
interesting thing is, you have a lot of I have a lot of clients who believe that their spouse, who they're potentially in the midst of a divorce with, needs to be with this particular crime.
Yeah,
The problem is Michigan is a no fault state,
yeah,
which means that it really doesn't matter who's at fault in a marriage. You can still
yeah.
marriage. So it has not been utilized in over 50 years.
Wow.
Somebody being prosecuted for adultery.
Okay.
Yet again, yet still on the books. If you get that particular officer who might
Yeah.
decide that, you know what, it is a crime.
It is a crime. And then
Committing
it's a felony.
it's a felony.
Wow.
So, but no one has ever been convicted
Yeah.
in over 50 years of adultery. Interesting. A client called me and brought up this law and was very adamant that she
Yeah.
wanted her spouse to be prosecuted for it because the spouse had, and she had evidence
Okay.
because in the adultery, the spouse had bared another child,
Wow.
and
Okay.
they were he and the other person was having baby showers and gender
Stop.
reveals, and she was through the roof.
Say.
And I tried to explain to her, and she was not having it. She was, I said, listen, you can spend your money
Yeah.
trying to prosecute your spouse.
Yeah.
Really, you need to spend your money on a divorce because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you don't have any relief
Right.
for someone being charged with adultery. Okay, they're gonna go to jail.
Yeah.
Okay, but no officer is gonna take a man or jail for the most part because
Right.
it's so rampant,
Yeah.
and there are not good marriages around.
Yeah. Let me
Uh,
ask you this. Is it considered adultery if you're married and you're going through a divorce? It's not final,
yep.
but okay. Is it considered divorce if you're separated? Still married, but you're separated and you're having a relationship with somebody else outside of that?
Unless you are legally separated,
Okay.
meaning legally separated within the courts and the court recognizes that as a legal separation, you are still married until you get a judgment of divorce that actually finalizes that dissolution of marriage.
Mm.
So we have a lot of cases where clients are, they've been separated for periods of time, and
Yeah.
one person is living with another person, and all of those things. But at the end of the day, they're still married.
They're still
They're,
married.
and it counts. So one instance, though, when the issue of extramarital affairs does come into place is sometimes with spousal support or the division
Okay.
of property.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that just basically says, because with spousal support, there are a number of different factors that the court looks at. It's about 12 different factors, and one of
Yeah.
them is with whether and who's at fault in the marriage. And so
Okay.
that's one issue, one point where adultery does come up. But if
Okay.
you have any assets, it's valueless.
It's valueless. Mm.
So you may say, I don't believe he deserves to get half of my pension or half of
Right.
401k because he's been involved in cycle
Mm-hmm.
from the marital estate to take care of his paramour or whatever you might want to call it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if there's nothing there, there is no issue to fight about.
Mm.
And judges just really don't get involved in that aspect again, but
Yeah.
starting to get too deep off into people's personal space and
Right.
intimate,
Right.
intimate matters that the court has really no authority.
Right.
It's not, divorce court is not a criminal court.
Right.
So
Right.
the judge is not going to be able to determine whether or not you committed a felony.
Right.
So,
I did see something too, and I got this from the internet again, famous internet. But it
okay.
went in terms of adultery. It was talking about the punishment. Any person who shall commit adultery shall be guilty of a felony, and when the crime is committed between a married woman and a man who is unmarried, the man shall be guilty of adultery as well. So I looked at that, for example, as, let's say a married man commits adultery, and let's say this was a law that they would actively enforce. A married man commits adultery, meaning he cheated on his wife.
Mm-hmm.
He's of adultery. And this is also saying that a married woman who cheats on her husband, she's found guilty of adultery as well, but so is then that single man. So when I'm looking at this, is it safe to assume that when this law, or if this is even true, when this was drafted, that the premise behind it is women are or were back then men's property, and so this single man should know better, because when the married man was cheating on, and let's assume that he was cheating with a woman, the married man was cheating on his wife with a woman, it doesn't say anything about then that single woman is charged with a crime, but it says when this married woman is cheating on her husband with this man, she is guilty of the crime as well as that single man.
That is correct. That is, and
Wow.
that's kind of where it starts. Like, women property. And
Yes.
how dare you, the single man who cheats with the married woman?
How
You know,
dare you?
because that is Johnny's wife. That is Johnny's property.
You should have talked to Johnny first.
That's not precious.
Oh my God. Go over and go talk to Johnny, see what he want to do. Oh my God.
Disparity too, in turn, even from a gender perspective.
Yes.
There. Yes. It's crazy.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This,
You know,
yeah, this is very crazy.
yeah. We
Very
all
crazy.
no.
Wow. Well, I mean, again, when I was looking at this, partners in crime, I'm thinking, wow, we're partners. We do a lot of things together with our significant others. Some people are not interested in getting married. And so when you find out that there's actually some criminal penalties, whether they're being enforced or not, but some listed criminal penalties, I'm thinking, wow, this is very interesting. And so I don't know if it gives me any assurance that they've not done anything with these laws for years. I'm hoping that the audience has gotten something out of this, because I certainly have. Again, please feel free to like and share this information. Hopefully we've answered some of the questions that are out there. If not, we are going to look at this video and make sure that we answer all the questions. Thank you so much, Attorney Davis, for being here with us. I definitely appreciate it. So hold on one second.
Okay.
Hands up, get down. I'm on to bring that attitude. Go up, get loud and ready to raise the latitude.